Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Tanya, or TitaniumBuilt. Thank you for joining me this morning for another live. I was laughing at that too, Crime with K. That's why I couldn't get my words together. Isabel is funny. Isabel became a new member. I'm so excited to have her. She's like my right-hand woman. Love that. Also, if you guys could, and whenever you guys are coming in, if you could just click the like button, that way it does send it into the algorithm. More people can come in and they can join us in the chat. And that's always fun. The more, the merrier. Also, if you want to join our channel membership, I will go ahead and paste that into the chat for you guys as well. And I'll make it look a little nicer later. A little prettier. I do have it on subscribers only in the chat, but that's only because of bots and things like that. So if you want to chat with us, I'm turning my camera on. If you want to chat with us, more than welcome. We'd love to have you in the chat. I just have it on there for bots and things like that because I only have a few mods and myself. So also, I'm going to put the banner on the bottom. I'm going to change it for a minute. If you want to follow me over on Twitter, we'd love to have you. I'm trying to get enough people over there to where I can start doing Twitter Spaces, which is basically like a podcast for you guys to join in on, where we can all talk. And what else did I want to tell you before we get started? Nothing really, that's all. If you're watching this on a replay, just hashtag replay for me, please. That really helps out the channel as well. So good morning, everybody. I have a few things to show you guys today. It's not going to be a huge, long live, but it's going to be a good one. Oh, you found your... Oh, that's why you're trying to find your PayPal password. That's so funny that SRB is trying to figure out hers for the contest. Isabel, she said she couldn't find her password. So, yeah... SRB, the girl that I can't even get my words now, the girl, one of our ladies, our Titans, she won our contest, our cash giveaway. She's like, oh, whenever I can get my PayPal password. So I was going to tell her today if she wants me to like switch it over to, Venmo or something like that, I can figure it out for her. So yes, welcome to the month of February. February the 1st, shortest month of the year. Get us that much closer to spring. Valentine's Day is coming up. If you haven't got your spouse anything for Valentine's Day and you want to get them the best gift of all, I'll put my banner up for my boutique really quick before we get started. I got to promote myself, a little. And okay, so I'll go ahead and change that back. And then if you want to follow me over on TikTok, I do have a TikTok as well at TitaniumBuilt. So I was searching around for some stuff today. Because I wanted to show you guys crime stories with Nancy. She's going to be in the courtroom all week. So she's got like front row. She's sitting as close as she can sit to look at the computers behind like the lawyers. So I was wondering why they were like messing with the boxes and stuff. And I think it was more like, to cover their mouths, when they're talking. But I think it was to like cover the computers for people like behind them so that they can't see things. I don't know. But they did put up drone footage of the house in relation to where the dog kennels are. And I wanted to show you guys that. And then if you have no idea what I'm talking about, we're going to be discussing the Alex Murdaugh trial today. He is on trial right now. He has 74 charges against him, equaling up to almost 731 years in prison, with 2 counts of murder being on the docket. So it's not looking really good for him when it comes to charges. So I wanted to show you this drone footage. And then also, I don't see Teresa on here yet, but Teresa, she sent me a few photos. I believe she found them on Reddit, and they are the like aerial view. They're really good for visual if you want to see something like visually. So let me show you guys this first. And then this is just going to be like a drone footage that shows just where their home was in relation to where the dog kennels were. And then I'm going to show you a video that Deets on the Streets did. I put her in the, shoot, that might actually be her URL. I put her in the description, and then I'll make sure that I put it in the StreamYard for her too. But she did a video, Deets on the Streets did a really wonderful video, just like a timeline. It's like a 5-minute video. It covers everything that you need to know up until this point. The names of the contenders, all that stuff. So I thought that would be really good to watch, because I don't know if you guys know who that is, but she's another creator on YouTube, and she's really good. I like her little videos that she does. So I'm going to show you this footage here. I'm going to go ahead and let it play like a couple times. It's only 12 seconds long, so. So they have a ton of property. I knew that it was a far, it looked far because we got pictures. You know, one of our other ladies went out and took some pictures for us. So I thought that was awesome. And it was summer, and we showed those the other day. So let me say good morning to some of you guys. Good morning to everybody. I'm excited. We got some people in the chat today that's, you know, sometimes it's just mornings, or just sometimes they're either really good or really bad, you know, whenever people want to come in. It's just one of those, you know, and everyone's watching the trial too. But I figured, why not let Nancy talk for all of it? Like, you know, we could sit here for 8 hours and watch the live. I feel like we would fall asleep. We did it on Friday, I believe it was. We did like 8 hours, and it was good, but there was times where it was just like so boring. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It is, you know, that's the part of the justice system. It's not always, you know, good times and fun and like, you know, interesting to watch or whatever you have it. It never should be fun, but, you know, interesting to watch. So this is what I'm going to show you guys now. I wanted to go ahead and play this for you because I watched this yesterday, and it made me like have a better understanding of the case, and I'm actually researching the case. So if I needed a better understanding, then there's probably a lot more other people that need a better understanding. Also, I did find out, let me put this in the chat really quick. So this is going to be for this channel, for this video. This is Deets on the streets. She did a, like I said, like a timeline, but we figured it out. She figured it out. Buster is the great grandfather's name. So he went by Buster. So that's where, because we were talking the other day in the chat about Buster, where did he get the name Buster from? So I guess it was his great grandfather's name. And if you haven't checked out her channel, you guys should. It's a good channel. And let me turn this down a little bit so it doesn't hurt your ears.
Just want to show you Alex's family connections, as well as some associates and people that will be showing up in the trial. This doesn't even begin to touch the number of people that have been affected by Alex and his crimes, alleged crimes. But I thought it would be a good way for people to visually see how some people were connected. We'll start with Randolph Murdaugh, Alex's great-grandpa who started the law firm in Hampton County. Next came his son, who had the same name, he's a junior, but goes by the nickname Buster. Buster fathered Randolph Murdaugh III. Now, all three served as solicitors in the 14th Circuit in the Low Country of South Carolina. I've left their spouses' names off, and I will leave off any other family members that are not directly involved in the trial. So the last solicitor, Randolph Murdaugh III, had 4 children. First, his namesake, which goes by the nickname Randy, then John Marvin, then Richard Alexander, which goes by the nickname Alec, and finally Lynn. Randy still practices law at the firm, which has been renamed the Parker Law Group. Alec, who is now disbarred, is at the center of several South Carolina investigations, including the murder of his wife and son. Alec married Margaret Kennedy Brandstetter, also known as Maggie, to her friends and family. They had 2 children, Richard Alexander Murdaugh Jr., who goes by Buster, and Paul Terry Murdaugh. The following are names that you are going to hear throughout the trial. Stephen Smith was 19 years old when he was killed in what the South Carolina Highway Patrol investigators originally ruled a hit and run. His case was later reopened after the Murdaugh double homicide investigation began. He was a classmate of Buster's, and while no one has been charged in relation to his death, Buster's name did come up several times in the investigation. Mallory Beach died in a boat crash that was piloted by Paul Murdaugh. Paul and the others on the boat were reportedly grossly intoxicated that night. Anthony Cook, Connor Cook, and Morgan Doty were also in that boat crash. They survived. You will hear their names several times throughout the timeline. Gloria Satterfield was the Murdaugh family housekeeper of over 20 years. She died in 2018 in a trip and fall accident at the Murdaugh property. Alec reportedly went to her sons after her death and said that since it was his property that her death occurred on, he was going to sue himself and give the boys the insurance money. However, they never saw any of that money. Curtis Eddie Smith. He is a former client of Alec's. Alec told authorities he conspired with Smith to kill Alec as part of an insurance fraud scheme so that Alec's surviving son Buster could collect a $10 million life insurance payout. Smith admitted in 2021 to being present at the shooting and disposing of the firearm afterward, although he alleges they got in a tussle and the firearm discharged. Corey Fleming was a longtime lawyer friend of Alec, former college roommate, and the godfather to Paul. Alec introduced Gloria's sons to Fleming after her death, so that Fleming could aid in filing a lawsuit against Alec. Her sons were never informed of the conflict of interest. Fleming convinced one of the sons, Tony Satterfield, to sign representation of his mother's estate over to Chad Westendorf. Connor Cook also named Fleming in a suit, claiming on the night of the boating accident, Alec started a whisper campaign to spread false rumors that Cook was driving instead of Paul. Alec introduced him to Fleming, who, as his attorney, directed him not to speak to authorities. Russell Lafitte is a former CEO of Palmetto State Bank, now federally convicted co-conspirator of Alex Murdaugh. Lafitte was convicted on a slew of charges for using Palmetto State Bank as a tool to launder money Alec allegedly stole. The Honorable Judge Clifton Newman. He's a South Carolina Circuit Court judge hearing the case. He has been on the bench since 2000. Newman has presided over various proceedings in the Murdaugh case since 2021. Creighton Waters is a South Carolina Senior Assistant Deputy Attorney General and lead prosecutor. He has been involved with the case since 2021. The state's Attorney General's office is prosecuting the case because of the Murdaugh family's close ties to the local solicitor's office. Richard Harpootlian, also known as Dick, is Alec's main defense attorney. Harpootlian is a South Carolina state senator and attorney whose Columbia-based practice specializes in criminal defense. He's well known for his courtroom theatrics. And Jem Griffin is Alec's other defense attorney, a former federal prosecutor. He now works as a state and federal criminal defense attorney based in Columbia, South Carolina. These are just some of the names that are going to be mentioned in the double murder trial of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh.
Okay, so I hope that gives you guys a little bit of a better understanding. It made me have a better understanding anyways. There's Teresa. I was telling them about how you sent me some pictures of the overview. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the Nancy Grace podcast and then try to overlay the pictures. So that way you don't have to just look at the Nancy Grace podcast the whole time and then just switch out the pictures because there's a few of them. But nope, you haven't missed too much. We just went over. So I put it in the chat also. Deets on the Streets, she did a short video, like a timeline video. And she did like a fabulous job on it. And it was just telling you who was... who's going to be involved in the case, all the major players, what, who the family is, what their ties are to the community, things like that. So I think that helped. I don't know. It helped me get caught up. So hopefully it helped everybody else kind of get caught up also. Let's see. What else did I want to show you? And then we just showed an aerial view of the home in relation to where the dog kennels were. But somebody in the chat had asked, how many acres does Alex Murdaugh have? And I thought it was a good question, so I looked it up. Does anybody have 3.9 million laying around anywhere they want to move to the country? So it's apparently they have 1,700 acres. And it's the Murdaugh farm now is on sale for $3.9 million. So it's actually over 1,700. I was just trying to see if there's anything. I don't think there's anything in here that we really needed to read. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that. So yeah, it's a lot bigger than I thought it was. I thought it was like 50. I didn't realize he owned the whole freaking town. That's a lot of property. To me anyway. I think it is. incredible wealth. And that's what it like. And that's the crazy thing too, you know, with all that wealth, he just wanted more. He couldn't handle just what he had. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, even if he didn't do the murders, I'm not saying he did those, you know, but I'm saying the financial part of it, he lost everything just because he wanted a little more money. He had made, I think it was 14 million in 1 month or something, or I mean, not 1 month, I'm sorry. Like within like the year or a couple years. And then he stole an extra like 9 million or 6 million or something. So I'm like, not very good business dealings. You know, like think of like saying where the murders were committed. Yeah, I don't think I would like to stay there either. But I would like all the land. I wouldn't mind all that land. I grew up like not on a farm or anything. We only had like an acre, but all of my friends had farms and stuff. And I like I like to live on a lot of land and be like out in the country. So this is Nancy's podcast from yesterday. And then this is going to be over. So yesterday we went over on our live, Murdaugh saying either it's just so bad, I did him so bad, or he said, they did him so bad. So she's going to go over that in this podcast. To sum it up, I'll read what she has written up here too. Make sure I didn't forget anything. Nope. It says 5 words are a major focus at Alex Murdaugh's murder trial. During a recorded conversation with investigators 3 days after the killings, the police body cam footage shows Murdaugh saying, "It's just so bad. I did him so bad. He's such a good boy too." Many are claiming this is a possible slip-up, a statement of guilt in the death of his son. Defense attorneys, however, push a SLED agent to say that it was possible that Murdaugh said, "They, not I," but the agent did not waver from his original assessment. Prosecutors went through the bullet evidence in detail, looking at each casing, giving its caliber and recovery location. Also discussed in court today were phone records of the victims and how they were tied to the timelines of their death. So it's going to go over the Snapchat. It looks like it's going to cover a lot of good stuff in this podcast, I believe. So, just reading your guys' stuff. Yeah, to live on a cursed. Yeah, live on a cursed property. I was going to say something about that. I don't know. Someone bought the Chris Watts home. Someone just bought it recently, I think. That to me, no. Oh, I guess our girl got there just in time. Because Summer got there and got back there to take some pictures and stuff. Wow. I think he showered, he changed too. I think he showered, he changed clothes. Yeah, I think they did, and they found like the blue rain jacket, didn't they? But I don't know. I do. So that's my next thing. Once we hit 10,000 subscribers, I'm getting me a Nancy cardboard cutout. But I do need a Nancy Grace t-shirt or something. I need to get one made with her picture or something on it. It says like, "I love Nancy," #Nancy Grace. I would wear that all day long. So please subscribe to the channel. That way I can make my little dream of, 10,000 subscribers and having my own Nancy cardboard cutout come to reality. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this because I do have a dentist appointment I have to go to today, so I can't be on here too terribly long. And I don't want to go at all. I've been trying to go for so long, and now I don't want to go. So I'm going to try to, like I said, to do the pictures, like overlay the pictures, and let me know if there's any, like, I want to make sure you guys can hear and everything. So while I do that.
As a working adult doesn't mean you have to sacrifice a high-quality education. Purdue University.
Oh, and I want to tell you guys, sorry, I can't really control the volume that much on this one. But if it's too loud, let me know, and I'll try to do it in the StreamYard settings.
A top 10 public university took its innovative thinking to a new level when it created
Unsung the Decades. CoverGirl wants to celebrate with you, so they're releasing
outside the Carlton County
breezy, beautiful CoverGirl.
Crime Stories with Nancy Grace. We are live outside the Carlton County Courthouse, and you should have been in the courtroom So much went down in the last hours right behind us, and to see Alex Murdaugh sitting there at the table, you would think not a thing had happened, but that is entirely not true. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us here at Fox Nation and Sirius XM 111. First of all, have you ever heard of a Freudian slip? Well, you're about to hear one right now. Take a listen to our cut 7.
You testified that Alex said on the video captured by audio that it was so bad, I did him so bad. That's what you testified to yesterday.
Yes, sir, that is what I testified to.
Now, are you 100% confident that Alex said, I did him so bad, rather than they did him so bad?
I am 100% confident in what I heard and I interpreted him as saying.
Okay, you are hearing a cross-examination of a state's witness. The defense tried so long and so hard to tell this witness he didn't hear what he heard. Alex Murdaugh saying in tears, I did him, Paul, my son, so bad. Now, listen to this, our cut 8.
There was a mental note that it was definitely something that we needed to follow up on and act at a later time.
The father, the only one in the circle, and he says, I did him so bad, and you can't tell the jury you even wrote it down on a piece of paper.
I don't recall if I actually made a physical note of it or not, sir.
Your Honor, we'd like to play it again at 1/3 speed to slow it down.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Did you hear they then?
No, sir, I did not.
No matter how they tried with this witness, he would not give in to the defense. With me, an all-star panel to make sense of what just went down behind me. Just as we were all coming out of the courtroom, they had a former Secret Service member from the U.S. Secret Service and formerly of the Columbia PD. But I want to address that slow-mo replay of what Alex Murdaugh said, and it's caught on body cam. Wendy Patrick joining me, California prosecutor. Wendy, I wish you had been in the courtroom. This witness was describing Alex Murdaugh breaking down in tears, and as part of his blubbering, he said, I did him so bad. And the defense tried over and over to get the witness to say no. He said, they did him so bad, not I did him so bad, but the witness never gave in, Wendy Patrick.
That's exactly right, nor would the witness give in. This witness is trained to listen to the words exactly. That wouldn't have been something the witness would have needed to write down. It is so explosive. And you heard exactly that. There was no question as to what was said. And slowing it down, it's even more significant and even easier to hear.
And can I tell you something? To Cheryl McCollum joining me, crime scene expert, forensic expert, founder, director of the Cold Case Research Institute. Cheryl, I found myself literally sitting on the edge of my seat. I scooched forward, hunched forward so I could put my ear to what I was hearing in the courtroom when they did that slow-mo. I mean, I closed my eyes, I'm like, did he say they did Paul so bad when he was murdered? I mean, the whole courtroom, Cheryl, you've been there. You could have heard a pin drop. What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, the word I and they don't sound anything alike. Number two, if he used I, that's going to be a confession. If he used they, then he's saying there was more than one person. Why would he say that? At that time, he didn't know two separate weapons were used. So again, it seems like to me he's invoking some knowledge there. Neither one of those words is going to help him.
Well, I can tell you that witness sat there with a stone face, and the whole courtroom hung on his words. Let me ask our New York control room, could you play cut 8 one more time? I want you to hear it just the way we heard it in the courtroom.
There was a mental note that it was definitely something that we needed to follow up on and act at a later time.
The father, the only one in the circle, and he says, I did him so bad, and You can't tell a jury you even wrote it down on a piece of paper.
I don't recall if I actually made a physical note of it or not, sir.
Your Honor, we'd like to play it again at 1/3 speed to slow it down.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Did you hear they then?
No, sir, I did not.
Man, I was looking right at that witness and I was thinking, what is he going to say? And what I'm seeing here is the same attack that we saw yesterday. For instance, we heard a lot about bloody footprints yesterday and that the scene had been contaminated. You know, it's almost like a TV drama where the defense says, well, shouldn't there be bloody footprints? And the state says there are bloody footprints. So the defense then says, well, they were contaminated. So we see that happening again today, that same.
Actually, okay, I thought I was going to mess up. Normally it does. Okay, I just wanted to ask a question really quick. So whenever you guys, okay, so most of you guys, I think everyone really that did the poll thought, well, no, there's a few people that thought that he said maybe, they. 22% said not sure. I just wanted to do a quick poll there. And then I'll do another one too. But it says, do you think Alex said I did him so bad? 69% of you guys said yes, and then not sure 20%. I'm on the not sure. I need to put my headphones in and see what I hear then. But I also think he could have meant it as in if he did say they did him so bad or I did him so bad, whichever he said, he could have meant it as in like I failed him. If he said I did him so bad, like I wasn't here for him, maybe I wasn't here for him and Maggie. I don't know. I don't think there's really any way to get around this stuff I think that he pretty much did this, but the evidence isn't really too strong against him. I don't like that they don't have that shirt that he was wearing.
Same attack, because we hear the video and then the attack becomes, well, you didn't write it down, did you? Well, of course the witness didn't write it down. It was all on body cam video. Guys, joining me, a very well-known psychiatrist joining us out of the Atlanta jurisdiction. You can find her at Angela Arnold, MD. Dr. Angie, thank you for being with us. I've thrown around the term with my layperson's understanding of it, a Freudian slip. Now, I didn't pay very much attention to Sigmund Freud until the twins turned 4, and then I started believing pretty much everything he said. But please explain the meaning of a Freudian slip.
Nancy, in very simple terms, a Freudian slip is a slip of the tongue, but it reveals something that someone is unconsciously thinking. So this man is upset, we hear him crying, and he has a slip of the tongue that reveals something that is going on in his unconscious mind. It is very important. It is a very important clue.
So I want to circle back to Wendy Patrick, California prosecutor, author of Why Bad Looks So Good. You can find her at Wendy Patrick, PhD. Wendy, explain what happened in that courtroom, because I can tell you, I wasn't the only one on the edge of my seat. The jurors, every one of them were looking at the replay. They were listening. They were looking right at the witness to find out if he was going to crack.
Oh, that's exactly right. And that's the benefit you have of actually being in the courtroom and seeing these witnesses and the defendant in the flesh. The jurors are able to gauge his reaction. Now, he's technically not an exhibit, but you can imagine, they're imagining what they would feel seeing their loved ones covered with blood, listening back to the statements they say, wondering if they would ever accidentally admit committing a murder. So these are very powerful statements and observations that they're able to make firsthand, just like you are. You're on the edge of their seat. I'm willing to bet they are too.
I don't know if you guys can see it, but my cat's actually back here behind me. He's that little white and black blob on the chair. So I forgot to show you guys in the beginning of the stream, he never comes and hangs with me. And he's actually hanging for once. He's like actually sleeping there. So he'll probably leave in a minute. That's why I wanted to show you while it was on the commercial really quick, because if not, he'll jump down and then he'll be gone. And I'll be like, oh man, I didn't get him again. So yeah, there he is. That's Rocky. Kind of covered with my chair now. So, and then I'm going to go ahead and put another picture up. So I'm going to switch out these. There's like a few different pictures that Teresa sent me, overview. So like the first one there I just showed you, was a screenshot of like the dog kennels and stuff like that. And then I have another aerial view, or not aerial view, but another view to show you guys as well. If you're just now joining us, we are talking about the Alex Murdaugh case. We are listening to the Nancy Grace podcast from yesterday's court proceedings. They are on day 8. I feel like every day, I don't even know what day we're on. I think we're on day 8, including jury selection. And we are just going over what we think he said yesterday in court, and not yesterday in court, but when he said on body camera footage, if he said, I did him or they did him. So we're just debating over here. Also, we went over this, but I'm going to say it again. I didn't realize that they had 1,700 acres of land over there. That's insane to me. That's a lot of land.
Tax alerts you to com/1
million credits for prior learning. Global.edu. That's PurdueGlobal.edu.
This February,
Crime Stories with Nancy Grace. Ann Emerson with me, senior investigative reporter, WCIV ABC. And I was just talking to all the guests about that slow-mo replay. I saw you in the courtroom when everything was going down. Literally, everyone was sitting on the edge of their seats so they could get 1 inch closer to that replay. And I was thinking, after all this time, we've been talking about Alex Murdaugh saying, I did him so bad. I did Paul, my son that just got murdered. I did him so bad. And now on slow-mo, we're going to hear that he really said they did him so bad. I couldn't believe that's what was happening. Explain to everyone, you had a bird's eye view of it. What went down?
Well, I was right there leaning in with everybody else, I think, and we were looking at the jurors. We really wanted to see exactly how they were going to be taking this information in and sort of pivoting back and forth and looking at the senior SLED agent Croft at the same time, seeing if he was going to change his decision about what he heard, and he did not. He stood his ground on what he heard and said, this is what I heard. And Griffin, of course, had to say, well, it's going to be up to this jury, who was riveted. They were absolutely trying to figure out, thinking this could be a critical turning point. So we'll see what they say when they get back into that jury room, Nancy.
So right before they called the lunch break, a new witness had taken the stand. He was short, he was succinct, he was awesome. Jonathan Van Houten, as I recall his name, and he has been with the U.S. Secret Service, and he is a digital expert, and he's explaining to everybody how he ultimately unlocked Paul Murdaugh's phone. This is critically important because Paul Murdaugh, the son, the murdered son, had sent a Snapchat and was sending voicemails and phone calls and texts all the way up until the time of his murder. This guy is talking about unlocking Paul Murdaugh's phone and how you do it. But before I get to that, I want to circle back chronologically. Let me get in my notebook. No phones allowed, so I had to write everything down as quickly as I could. I want to talk about, and this is where you come in, Leonard Romero joining us, forensic firearms experts at ballisticfirearmsexpert.com. Leonard, thank you for being with us. A lot was made this morning. Let me get back to my notes about Blackout 300 ammo taken from the murder scene. And I couldn't quite understand where the state was going and what the defense was trying to get to. And then it all became very, very clear. You know, they had basically a gun room there at the dog kennels. not really kennel, it's a big spread. It's not a dog shed, I can tell you that much. And inside, which the defense fought really hard yesterday to keep out. I don't know if we could pull up a picture of this or not, but a room within the hunting lodge estate that was dedicated to holding all the guns and ammo. We learned, Leonard, that during this time it was very hard to get 300 blackout ammo, and because of COVID, they said. And they looked across the entire estate as best as they could. They found 223 caliber, 256, 308 from a hunting rifle, also military use, but no other 300 blackout. But that was what was used for the murders. Now explain to me, what is 300 blackout ammo?
Thanks for having me, Nancy. 300 blackout ammo is basically similar to an AK-47 type of ammo. All it is it's very powerful ammunition. It's an AK-47 type round that's been developed to be fired in an AR type weapon, as we've seen with this blackout 300. What's interesting about that gun room is the cartridge cases that they found in the flower bed and just adjacent to the stoop entering the gun room. I believe they were 300 blackout ammunition, but they were weathered cartridge cases, okay, that had been fired.
You mean old?
Old, yes, ma'am. If we can go ahead and link them to the fired cartridge cases back in the kennel, as well as any other cartridges that were cycled through the weapon, then that puts to rest that the gun was brought onto the property. That shows that that gun was fired.
Okay, whoa. Leonard Romero, slow down. Will you say that again very slowly so I can just let it sink in?
Yes, ma'am. What happened is the same SLED agent who was just testifying about, he just a minute ago when you showed him, he found some cartridge cases adjacent to the flower bed in the gun room, as well as adjacent to the stairs entering the gun room. He described them as being weathered. Those cartridge cases being weathered means they've been there for a significant amount of time. That tells us if we can link them back to the fired cartridge cases within the kennel, as well as any ammunition that have maybe been cycled through the weapon, that tells us that that weapon was on property all along, that it's not a weapon that just came onto the property.
I just wanted to let you guys know that we did do a video actually over that yesterday, or we did the live, it was on the live, the body cam footage of the officers going into the gun room and, seeing all of the weaponry. So I just wanted to point that out. And then I did put the picture up. So if you guys are listening and you want to check through the screen of the gun case showing all of the guns, we're counting like 24, 25 in there. And when he was, when the crime first happened and the officers were on scene, I remember them asking him how many guns he had. And I think he said like 25. So he was right. Also, we did see on the body cam footage the bullets they were picking up around the property. And they did appear to be older because they were like dug into the ground. They weren't just like sitting on top of the grass. They were actually like maybe someone had stepped on the bullet at one point, maybe put it into the ground a little bit more. So I'm hoping that those bullets will come back and they're going to match the bullets, that ended up maybe unaliving Maggie and Paul. I'm going to go ahead and press play. So if you guys need to turn it down a little bit, you got your warning. Also, if you guys are just coming into the chat, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. It really does help the content and the creator just get more exposure. So I appreciate you guys.
Because those cartridge cases have been there a significant amount of time.
Very significant. Ann Emerson joining us, WCIV, weigh in. Of course, this is before we get what I thought was a wild goose chase. Pardon my pun, because there was a huge, long line of questioning and cross-examination about turkey shot In other words, waterfowl ammo versus landfowl ammo. And I thought, why do we care about waterfowl versus non-waterfowl ammo? And that went on and on forever until suddenly they made their point. But could you back up, Ann, to what Leonard Romero was telling us about the 300 blackout ammo?
Well, it's very significant because, you know, markings on these shell casings, as we just heard, are going to be so important to this case. They are like the signature of a gun. Now, we don't have the murder weapon in this circumstance. They've already said that several times, that we don't have the actual murder weapon, but the prosecution is setting it up that this is a family weapon that was used, even if we don't have it. Yet we have these shell casings that can all point, they're telling us, from the range to the stoop of the house to the casings that were found around Maggie's body, that these 300 blackout, that not only are they uncommon, according to our senior SLED agent, he says he has never worked a case with 300 blackout before. This is also the same shell casing. So we're going to have to see how hard the defense goes after that. Now, the waterfowl, I thought that was so interesting too. And I was, you know, as at one point Griffin said, I'm a city boy. You know, I'm not, you know, I'm still from a small southern town, but I guess I'm a city girl. So I really had to take a lot of notes on that too. But what I got from that was that Griffin, the defense, Jim Griffin, is trying to say that the shells that killed Paul Murdaugh, well, those just were not on the property. These steel shells, these steel bullets that kill waterfowl that would have been loaded into this shotgun, the way I understood it, this just isn't what killed Paul. So that does seem to present a problem.
You know, they went through a lot of discussion, a lot of questioning and cross-examination on particular types of ammo. And I took so many notes. I'm just wondering how the jury could keep up with it, because I noticed they're not taking notes. Now, in some jurisdictions, note-taking is allowed. In many jurisdictions, it is not allowed. And this is the legal reasoning why some judges do not allow jurors to take notes. The law, the judge, does not want the jury, when they are working in tandem, to rely solely on one or more jurors' notes. They are to reach a true verdict based on their collective memories of what happened in the courtroom. But I can tell you, I tried a flow chart about all the different ammo and all of the ammo-related questions. But I'll tell you what it boils down to. I can do that for you. Leonard Romero, forensics ballistics expert, it boils down to this. We all know that a bullet is like a fingerprint, because once a bullet hurtles down the barrel of a gun, it is indelibly and forever marked with the imperfections on the inside of that barrel, where when the factory made it, that metal cooled and there will be little rivets and dots inside the barrel. And those bullet striations, or marks on a bullet, are only made by one gun and one gun only. And when you look at it under a microscope at the crime lab, you get your known bullet out of the body or at the crime scene that was fired from a gun. And then you try to fire from the known weapon, the murder weapon, and see if they match. Our problem is we don't have the murder weapon. What a lot of people don't know is that a cartridge can do not exactly the same thing, but much the same thing. Explain.
Yes, basically the cartridge case is going to have tool marks on it that are individual for a particular firearm that it was fired in. Just as the bullet has those individual tool marks that allow us to identify it back to a particular gun, the cartridge cases all have those similar tool marks in different areas of it that we can use to identify back to a gun. Going back to your original question with regards to the ammo, it is a fairly new round. It was developed in 2010, but there was a difficulty in getting ammo during COVID. Not only for this particular round, what made it more difficult for this is that it was a newer type of round developed. but for all ammunition, because of COVID, it was very difficult to buy ammunition.
Ann Emerson with me, senior investigative reporter, WCIV. We keep hearing about a receipt that was found in a trash bag, and it was a Gucci receipt. Why do we keep hearing about a Gucci?
I just wanted to make sure you guys listen to this part because I want to get your guys' opinion on this Gucci receipt that they're going to talk about. So somebody in the house made a purchase at Gucci for, I don't know, like $1,100 or something, $1,000. They circled it, but it was in the trash. The receipt was. So people were speculating that maybe Alec hadn't bought it, but it was maybe for another woman. But perhaps maybe Paul bought it for a girlfriend and his dad got mad that he did that. I don't know. Or maybe Miss Murdaugh, Maggie just picked up a new handbag or something. But I don't know if it's Gucci. $1,000 ain't going to get you much at Gucci, is it? I just thought of that. That's going to be like a scarf. I'm about to look that up. Because your girl don't really shop at Gucci. She ain't got it like that. Let's just see. What can you get? Let's go to, let's just go to women. Let's go to belts. It's probably so expensive, it won't have price. So you can get 2 belts at Gucci. So you're not going to get much there. So whoever did this, if it, I don't know who did it. We can even look. I was just trying to go to one of the cheaper things that I knew that would be. Let's see. Or you can get a silk scarf and a belt. But yeah, you're not going to be getting much. Oh, a mini bag or a wallet. Oh yeah, that would be true. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play it again for you guys, and I'll change the picture too.
Store receipt. And what, if any, significance do we believe that played?
Well, Nancy, it just seems like they just keep on hooking us. Did you see the room again? Like, once again, it was one of those moments where everybody said, oh my gosh, we're going to talk about that Gucci receipt again. And then they sort of leave us hanging. All we get out of that is that there was a receipt from the Gucci store. We're thinking that it was from Charleston because we know that there's one in Charleston, that it was for over $1,000. It was on a credit card statement. It was circled, and it was balled up, and it was thrown in the trash can of this kennel, of the area of where the murders took place. And so who threw away the Gucci receipt? How does this play into what we already know about the financial pressures that Alex Murdaugh had brought upon himself with these alleged financial crimes? How is this going to play into the prosecution? Now, one thing that I have heard over and over again is that this case is to be looked at just like a puzzle. They are giving us a piece at a time, and sometimes those pieces turn out to be really not the right fit. But gosh, we are starting to see a picture for sure. So that Gucci receipt to me was something was bought there. It was over $1,000. That would have caused pressure on the family. We can really start kind of seeing where that the state wants us to focus on financial issues, whether or not they get brought into evidence.
Well, I've done a little bit of digging since we've been here in Baltimore, and I'm thinking about that Gucci receipt. And this is what I've learned by not one person, but by 2. I'm thinking about this Gucci receipt. I'm thinking about how Alex Murdaugh knew he was so deep in debt, stealing clients' money, siphoning money from his law firm, just outright embezzling money, to the point where his law firm kicked him out. And of course, yesterday we spoke with Eric Bland, a lawyer for the Satterfield family, whose mom was found at the foot of the state.
Were you guys able to hear that? The volume was low. Okay, that's probably because I had this bag on there. So let me do that. And I'll go back a few seconds too. Sorry about that. It's probably because I changed the picture. So what we'll do is we'll just take this one. We'll go back to this overlay. Actually, I'm going to go back to the first one. And then I'll show you the first two. And then we'll go to the third one that I haven't shown you guys yet. Because I didn't touch the sound, so I don't know why that would have went out. So, and I turned it up even a little bit more. So it's probably because I added the Gucci bag. So. Hold on. Let me see what is going on here. Let me figure the sound out really quick. Sorry, guys. Hold on 1 second. Okay, let's see if this works now. Let me share this with you again. Sorry, guys. I don't know what. I must have been doing something funky there. That's what you get for doing two things at once. I'm going to take it back a little bit. And then I'm going to make sure you guys can hear it and everything.
They are getting us a piece at a time. And sometimes those pieces turn out to be really not the right fit. But gosh, I mean, we are starting to see a picture for sure. So that Gucci receipt to me was something was bought there. It was over $1,000. That would have caused pressure on the family. You know, we can really start kind of seeing where that the state wants us to focus on financial issues, whether or not they get brought into evidence.
Well, I've done a little bit of digging since we've been here in Walterboro, and I'm thinking about that Gucci receipt. And this is what I've learned, but by not one person, but by two. I'm thinking about this Gucci receipt. I'm thinking about how Alex Murdaugh knew he was so deep in debt, stealing clients' money, siphoning money from his law firm, just outright embezzling money, you know, to the point where his law firm kicked him out. And yeah, of course, you know, yesterday we spoke with Eric Bland, the lawyer for the Satterfield family, whose mom was found at the foot of the stairs there. And all of that money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, was taken by Alex Murdaugh that should have gone to that family. That's just one small example. So Murdaugh knows he's way drowning in debt. But Maggie didn't really know, according to some sources, how bad it was. And I'm wondering if she went and unwittingly blew $1,000 at Gucci. Now, this is what I've learned, that the home, the beach house they had in Edmonton was in Maggie's name, Ann Emerson, and that Murdaugh went to Maggie and wanted her to put that beach house up as collateral for him to get yet another loan. She wouldn't do it, and he was mad as HELL that she would not use that house as collateral. That there were all sorts of money tensions between these two. You know, I would like to pose a hypothetical. Why do rich people, all they want to do is hold on to that money, spend it, and try to get some more? That said, this Gucci receipt, we're going to hear about that, Ann Emerson. We're going to hear it because they keep mentioning it in the courtroom.
They keep on hooking us. They're absolutely going to bring that up. And I think they're going to bring it up in a way that's going to make a lot of sense as far as what we also know, which is that the chief financial officer over at the Murdaugh law firm has confronted Alex Murdaugh the day of the killing. So that's going to have to play in tandem with this level of pressure that's building on the family. Years and years of financial allegations that are going to be coming to play here. And it's just a matter of time.
Well, I can tell you one person that better get their story straight. But before I go to Alex Murdaugh and our cut one talking about exactly when the last time he saw his wife alive. I mean, I can tell you right now, the last time I saw my children and my husband as I pulled out of the driveway to come here, I can tell you exactly what they were doing. But he seems to have a little trouble remembering exactly what was happening the last time he saw his wife alive. But before I go to that, Dr. Michelle Dupree joining me, forensic pathologist, medical examiner, also detective, author of Homicide Investigation Field Guide. Dr. Dupree, I mean, I know you've had a lot of autopsies, but it just stopped me in my tracks when I heard that Paul's, God rest his soul, brains were down by his feet. Those words were Murdaugh's words, not mine. Murdaugh's words. I don't think I would have put it quite like that. But Dr. Dupree, would a 300 caliber blackout bullet, as opposed to, let's just say, a 22, for Pete's sake, cause that type of damage to the human body?
Absolutely, Nancy. That the way that we determine the damage to the body is basically by the kinetic energy, or the amount of energy in that specific projectile, and that would cause extensive damage to a human body, especially when it hits a skull like that. It would be devastating, and again, at rather close range.
But to take your brain, first of all, out of your skull, and it fly all the way to your feet, a bullet, a weapon that powerful, is that what a 300 blackout is?
Yes, it is, Nancy. That's what any type of weapon like that is. A rifle or an AK would do the same thing. A shotgun, the same thing.
Now, this type of weapon, Leonard Romero, ballistics expert, is a semi-automatic, which means you have to pull the trigger. It's not like a machine gun on TV where you go, and you pull the trigger one time and it just keeps on shooting. This is a semi where every time you hear a bullet, somebody had to pull the trigger for each firing, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. With each pull of the trigger, the gun is fired.
I can tell you right where that's going, Wendy Patrick. That is going to intent, because intent to commit a crime does require some malice, a forethought. But under the law, there is no specific time for that planning. It does not have to be a long, attenuated plan, such as I feed Ann Emerson a little bit of arsenic every day in her coffee before court till she kills over. That's a long, extended plan to kill. Intent to kill, under the law says this, not me, the law says it can be formed in the twinkling of a moment, the blink of an eye. The time it takes you to raise the gun and pull the trigger is long enough to form intent to kill, much less when you fire multiple rounds, Wendy Patrick, and each time you must knowingly and willfully pull the trigger. Isn't that true?
Oh, absolutely. You know, not only does the law say you can form intent to kill very quickly, but in a case like this, where there are so many moving parts that you can put together, that's exactly what you find here, to the extent that it's almost a rage-type killing when you have chosen and selected this particular weapon, which, by the way, through that unique signature that we've been discussing, is tied directly to the crime scene. So this may be a puzzle, but we've already established the border. Now the Gucci receipt, some of the other information, that's just going to fill in the middle of it. Jurors don't need to see notes to see the picture that is emerging.
To Cheryl McCollum is joining me, forensic expert at the Cold Case Research Institute. Cheryl, weigh in on what you're hearing about ballistics.
I think one of the most important things is going to be the placement on their body, then where the cartridges are found, But Nancy, also something that sticks out for me major is Paul has never said any guns were missing.
Okay, hold on. Say that one more time. I'm out here in front of the courthouse. You cut out on me. What did you just say?
Paul has never said guns were missing from his arsenal. He's never said, oh my gosh, this one's missing and that one's missing. He never said that.
You know what's interesting about what you just said? I want to circle back to Ann Emerson on exactly what Cheryl McCollum just said. They're laying the foundation. The defense is laying the foundation. Ann Emerson, how many times have we heard the defense say in court that Paul Murdaugh leaves things laying around and is suggesting he's lost a gun?
Absolutely. I mean, and it was something that was laid by Alex Murdaugh. The defendant started laying the groundwork for that in his first statements to SLED officers. We heard that Paul was absent-minded. He was irresponsible. We heard that he had ADHD. We heard that he left stuff all over the place, including his clothes all over the state, his guns all over the place. He talked about how he used his guns all over the 1,700-acre estate. In other words, like, who knows what he could have done with his guns. He was really setting that up in these video statements, that Paul was irresponsible with guns and ammo, and that he would take a 300 blackout and just go shoot hogs when he felt like it. Now, the thing about the lost or stolen, there's a big question here, because we heard that he never reported a stolen blackout rifle of Paul's. This is what we were hearing, that Alex Murdaugh never reported it, but he did let his buddies know in law enforcement in case it turned into a drug thing. So I'm wondering if defense already has some witnesses lined up to say, we knew that Paul's gun was missing from the property.
Info and a lifelock.com
goes faster. That's
Say it free this week in
a lot of cases. But I knew there.
Crime Stories with Nancy Grace.
I can see them laying the trap right now. I wasn't sure where they were headed, but I knew they're laying a trap for the state. They're implicating Paul, the dead son, as somehow being irresponsible and, quote, leaving guns laying around. You know, Cheryl McCollum, you and I have handled a lot of cases in inner city Atlanta, and almost all of them dealing with guns. There's a big difference in having a messy room and throwing your clothes around your car or your bedroom and leaving an AR, basically, you know, a semi-automatic assault weapon lying around. I just don't see that. I don't believe that for 1 minute.
I don't believe it either, Nancy. Here's what's going to happen. The prosecution is going to show what all is not present at that scene that could be if this was an outside person. They're going to show there's no unknown footprint. There's no unknown cell phone key. There's no other suspect anywhere that anybody's been able to name that would have a motive. There's no one else that lured them there. Nobody else knew that they would all three be there, that, you know, Alex would leave. There's no unknown power pack. There's no burglary. There's no sex assault. There's nothing. There's nothing but Alex Murdaugh. Every time you come to the piece of evidence, it's going to come back to Alex Murdaugh. The day of the murder, what does he tell you? He went to his office. He's dealing with the civil suit involving Paul. That's on the receipt, anger about money. He lures his wife there. He already admitted he and Paul were out Paul. That's why you've got the two weapons. He's telling you, I was on this property with these two people that I got there, and I had two weapons.
You know, I was looking at my notes about what I was telling you earlier, that two people came up and told me that Maggie had a, quote, nice, beautiful antebellum home in downtown Hampton, and that Murdaugh had her sell it and move, and that he also wanted her to put up the Edisto Beach home, put it up for collateral so he could get another bank loan, and she refused. We also heard a lot today about stippling on the skin, and I nearly jumped out of my skin yesterday. Ann Emerson and Leonard Romero or anyone on the panel, Dr. Michelle Dupree, I keep telling you guys, this is not high tea at Windsor Castle with the new King Charles. Okay, so jump in if you have an idea here. You're all experienced veterans. So Ann Emerson, yesterday, when the defense was going on and on and on about the trajectory path, the angle at which the victims were shot. Was it from here down? Was it straight across? Let me just give an example. Here's a way to tell if there was a suicide. If somebody's shot in the back of the head, that's probably not a suicide because it would be difficult for the suicide victim to do that. They were arguing yesterday about the trajectory of the path of the bullet that shot the victims. And we're trying to get Worley, I love that woman, she was such a great witness, on the stand to say that there were two shooters. She would never say it. Today they came in, first thing this morning, talking about stippling on the victim's skin, which in my mind would show a defendant, a perp could shoot at one angle, and when the victim was down, they could go over and shoot close range at a different trajectory path, a different angle. So Ann Emerson, they came in immediately talking about stippling on the victims' bodies. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that there's a couple things here that I took away, and I'm trying to listen to some of the tidbits that they're handing out because, like you said, this is very important that they were that close that they actually had stippling on both of these bodies. Now, we were hearing from defense that there must have been another angle that was quite far away, and that's where defense started setting up the two-shooter theory, which I don't think they did a bad job with. I just think the problem that they're having is that people are saying, the witnesses on the stand, states talking about that they're actually, people can move. It's not like they have to stay still if they're shooting.
Exactly.
In fact, we know because we heard earlier on that Maggie and they've already said that the shooter and Maggie were moving when that happened. When she was shot, they were both moving. So there's nothing stopping the state from saying, hey, this is one person and he was moving around. I think their bigger problem is how he was holding two guns. Did he have one on his back? Did he have one in his hand? I'm really interested to see what they're going to say about where the positions of these guns were.
Ann Emerson, apparently when you were in journalism school, you did not get the required course in Arnold Schwarzenegger or Rambo. They always carry two guns. So anybody's been watching TV and they think they're going to pull off a murder, they do what they see on TV. They come in, guns loaded, locked and loaded. I can very easily see him coming in with two weapons. It's not that fantastical to me. Okay, guys, another thing happened today. I want you to hear. Alex Murdaugh seems to be a little confused about the last time he saw his wife alive. Take a listen to our cut one.
At some point, we were all back at the house together. Maggie had gotten home, and we sat down, we ate supper, which we usually eat supper together. I know that Maggie went to the kennels. I don't know exactly where Paul went, but he left the house too.
Okay.
I mean, I'm assuming Paul went to the kennels.
Okay.
And I was watching TV, looking at my phone, and I actually fell asleep on the couch.
When you and Paul got back to the house, Miss Maggie's there, and y'all eat supper, which has been prepared. And you said you laid down and took a little nap. And when you got up, Maggie and Paul was gone, or did they leave when you laid down?
I believe that. I'm not sure.
But they weren't there when you woke up around the 9 o'clock mark or so when you made the call to Maggie to let her know you was going to your
No, nobody was in that house when I left.
So I'm just trying to narrow down the last time that you saw Paul and Maggie's when y'all were eating supper.
Yes, sir.
Guys, he can't be asleep, having supper, at the kennels, in the car, on the phone, all at the same time. I mean, he's not clear. He's giving multiple explanations of where he was, where Maggie was, and when he saw her for the last time before she was murdered. How can that be?
It can't be. And I'll tell you something else. When he says, I was watching TV and scrolling on my phone, that's going to be easy for them to prove whether or not that happened. What show were you watching? He's either going to be able to tell something that was on TV at that time or not. They've got his phone. They're going to know whether or not he was scrolling right before he supposedly took this nap. What is going to be critical is the totality of everything that he has said and when he said it and his actions. How many times has he ever woken up from a nap, didn't see his wife or child, and left without telling them he was leaving?
Nancy, can I jump in here?
Oh, okay, go ahead, Wendy. Jump in.
Cheryl was making some great points about the fact that the suspect was giving all this kind of information that can be corroborated. What was he watching on television? What was he doing on his phone? They can check all of that. I want to point that tone of voice is very important here as well. It's not just what he's saying. It's the way he's saying it. And remember, this was close in time to the murders. So the fact that there's this inability to reconstruct a timeline that literally just happened is definitely something the jurors are going to really pay a lot of attention to, and then loop in, as I think everybody else has been saying, with the weight of the rest of the evidence they have to work with.
Well, let me just ask Dr. Angie Arnold. Angela, do you remember the last time you saw your husband before you came to the set? Well, what was he doing? What was he doing?
He was leaving to go to a meeting.
Okay.
And I remember what time it was also. Because, Nancy, typically what people do, they associate things with other things that are going on. So one of my questions is, had Alex been drinking heavily that night? I don't know. Why is he so specific about some of the things that he remembers, that he wants us to think that he remembers? And then everything else is so fuzzy. I think that's a very big red flag also.
Well, another thing, Dr. Angie, is I can remember to this day the last moment I saw my fiance alive before he was murdered. He was leaving in his car, and I was waving, and he held his right hand out the window and waved, and that was the last I saw him. I remember it like it happened before the lunch break. And now Murdaugh can't tell me the last time he saw his wife alive, the mother of his 2 children. That is some BS, and that is not a technical legal term. Guys, a lot going down in the courtroom, and I want to go to our cut 9 about not only is the stippling on the body, but another significant line of questioning by the defense that has just happened about where does a cartridge land when you shoot a shotgun or any long gun. This is important. Listen to this.
Are you aware that both victims had stippling on them from their gunshot injuries?
Yes, sir, I am.
And what is stippling?
Stippling is a powder burn pattern which is left on an individual due to a close range shot.
To a close range shot?
That is correct.
Thank you. You were asked some questions about the location of where shell casings land when they're ejected out of the weapon. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I was.
Are there a number of factors that go into where a shell casing might actually land?
Yes, sir, it is.
Can people move?
I'm sorry, sir?
Do people move?
People can move, yes, sir.
I got to tell you, that prosecutor he knows his way around a courtroom. I can tell you that much. He's good. And they had another defense lawyer up today, in addition to Hart Pooligan, doing cross exams. He was pretty good too. So right now it's an even match in the courtroom between the lawyers. Can we talk about why it's important? Where does the cartridge go after you fire a long gun? With me, Dr. Michelle Dupree, not only pathologist medical examiner, but she also is a forensic consultant. What can you tell us about where the cartridge goes when it's ejected, not the bullet, but the cartridge when it's ejected from a long gun?
Well, Nancy, that's a good question. And most of them do eject to the right and oftentimes backwards. But the problem is we can't place a lot of stock in where we find that cartridge casing, because there are so many things that happen. Maybe the person themselves moved it. Maybe the shooter kicked it. Maybe some of the first responders kicked it. It's something to look at, but that is not definitive. I want to say one other thing. It does give some indication as to possibly where the shooter was standing. And there's also been a lot made about not having the weapon or not finding the weapon. But oftentimes we don't have the weapon when we go to trial. We don't ever find the weapon. And that's one of the things that is just, I guess, sort of smoke and mirrors that the defense is trying to throw out.
I think the defense is also trying to set up that it's not just that it's the murder weapon, it's that it could be a stolen weapon that came off of their property and they don't know where it is and they don't know what happened to it. So I think that's also part of the mystery behind which weapon was used and was it Paul's actual 300 blackout.
Leonard Romero, ballistics expert, let me talk to you about this ejection theory. As Dr. Dupree just said, typically cartridge will eject to the right of the gun, of the shotgun, the long gun, and maybe a little bit backwards. And I can't tell you how the defense went round and round establishing that. I can see where they're going with this. Exactly what Dupree just said. They're going to argue about, could there be two people standing in two different places in that dog kennel when the shootings went down? But the reality is the surface on which the cartridge falls. I remember a case where a murder took place in a bedroom. The victim was lying in the bed. It was set up to look like suicide. We were looking at where the cartridges went. And if it's carpet, it could bounce. If it hits tile, it could go somewhere else. But wouldn't you agree it typically ejects to the right and usually a little back over your shoulder?
Typically to the right. Yeah, that's correct, Nancy. If we're dealing with a semi-automatic shotgun, yes, it's to the right. And with this blackout 300, it's going to be to the right. What's interesting also about this case is if you look at the SLED officer's diagram, you'll see items 2 through 7, which are the 300 blackout cartridge cases, kind of going in an arc towards Maggie, away from Paul. You're correct in that the surface does play a big reasoning or a big hindrance, if you will, as to where the cartridge case can land, and when we're trying to do ejection pattern analysis. But if you look at this crime scene, you'll see also right behind Paul, there's a shotgun wad that's labeled as photo ID number 1, right. And that's right directly behind him. And then if you look in front of him, going towards Maggie, you will see what looks like an arc of cartridge cases. And those, my understanding, photo IDs 2 through 7 were the 300 blackout cartridge cases. But it is a dynamic crime scene. People are moving. The individual is moving. Victims could be moving at the time. So again, those are all factors that have to be considered when you're doing these ejection pattern analysis.
You're so right, Leonard Romero. Cheryl McCullum with me, forensics expert. Maggie, we believe, was running. We believe she was running from the shooter. Talk about a dynamic crime scene. Yes, people were running and moving and screaming. So I think that is going to benefit the state, but yet it will give the defense a toehold. They're going to argue that cartridges were in different places, so that would indicate a second shooter. Of course, that's anything but true.
Well, again, if Paul was shot first, which is what we all believe, Maggie was aware of that at some point, especially with the second shot. He was shot in the chest and the head. At that point, she is running to try to save herself, and the shooter is now hunting her. So again, I think it's real important that we understand, was Paul out there, and where his mother was when the murders occurred? But Alex, was he hunting hogs or was he hunting his family? So I'm going to tell you something, Nancy, not his brothers, not his law partners, not his friends, not other family members. Nobody has demanded law enforcement go out and find the real killer. Nobody's hired a private investigator. The community at large is not afraid of some loose madman on the run.
I was just thinking about something else, and I'm going to go to our cut 4 to the control room, and I really appreciate you playing this sound in the control room, because I want everybody to hear what's happening, not just me telling you what happened, but for you to actually hear. We've been recording it for you. They better be careful when they keep talking about what a great marriage they had. Take a listen to our cut 4.
How is your relationship with Maggie?
As good as it could possibly be. I mean, you know, we had our issues, but wonderful. And we really didn't argue about much. We didn't have much to argue about.
Take your time. Good. Tissues.
I'm sorry.
You good.
I mean, she was a wonderful girl and a wonderful wife. And she was a great mother. She, you know, she didn't work. And she always said it was her job since she was privileged enough not to work. She was going to make sure she took care of me and the boys. And I mean, she did everything. She did absolutely everything. I'm sorry.
No, you have every right to do that.
I got to tell you something. If someone asked my husband, how's your marriage with Nancy? And he said, well, it's as good as it can be. My head would blow off. Because if somebody asked me about how is my marriage to David, I'd say, next to having the twins, it's the best thing I ever did in my life. I only wish I had done it earlier. As good as it can be. Really? I mean, Cheryl, help me.
If anybody says, well, it's as good as it can be, then you're telling them there's some problems there. It ain't great. It's not fabulous. It's not the best thing I ever did. He's not the love of my life.
Good as it could be.
Nancy,
So
also,
it wasn't a natural
it
answer.
isn't quite true that she didn't work. Maggie did do some work at the law firm as a bookkeeper.
That's the last thing a mom wants to hear is the husband saying, well, she didn't work. What? Raising 2 boys? Putting dinner on the table every night, seeing that they do their homework and they do this and that. I tell you what, when I have a weekend, I can't wait to get back to work because I work harder being a mom and a wife than I do being a lawyer, for Pete's sake. She didn't work and our marriage was as good as it could be.
Nancy, he didn't just say she didn't work. He said she was privileged not to work. Let's not let that word go by the wayside. He provided her the privilege of not working. That's what he.
Okay, Nancy always does that. She always cuts us off at the end and then makes us watch her next episode. I knew she was going to do that. But I wanted to show you guys this picture really quick. Let me make sure you guys can hear me. Yep. Oh, yeah, you guys can hear me. So yeah, this is I was trying to show you all 3 of the pictures, but it kept messing up. So I'm going to show them to you really quick now. And then also there is a lot of things that they went over today. They are going to have to, I think that the biggest pieces of evidence that they're going to have are the cell phones and maybe the bullet casings and the stippling of the gun. That might have a lot to, they may have a lot of evidence there. What do you guys think? Do you think that they're going to be able to, trying to take this off, sorry. Think they'll be able to prove this case? I just don't know. Okay. Just making sure I got everything off of there. She also refused to sell their homes that he was wanting her to sell with him so that he could get out of financial debt, which the guy had so much financial debt, it's unreal. I saw in the chat, I think it was Parker said that he was like, he owed like random people $5 here, $20 here. I could see him being that guy, definitely. I feel like it could be one shooter and 2 guns. He could either have one, you know, like they said, with a strap, or he just had one laying on the ground, picked it up, laid the other one down. I'm not sure. But the 2 guns, I think that is part of I think it's part of the plan. I think it was part of the plan the whole time. He also can't recall the last time that he saw his wife, which I think that's totally insane. When was the last time you saw her? Oh, I can't tell you that. That to me, I feel like you should be able, the last person that you saw like, I mean, if it's your wife or whoever it is, you should be able to tell the officers when you saw them what they were doing. That's just me. The Gucci receipt is a big one. I don't know. That's just something. So that's just something that I'm fascinated by. I want to know what that Gucci receipt entailed. Because you know when you go shop at Gucci, like, okay, when I go shop and get like Coach or something, they have a special tag that they put in your bag. I don't know, maybe even at Gucci, they might even be even more high class over there where they like get your name and get like, but they're going to be able to itemize it on the receipt. They're going to have such a good inventory to where it's going to be down to the SKU. They're going to have a SKU number. It's going to have a product number. It's going to have a batch number. They're going to be able to tell you what manufacturer, where it came out of, who made it, who double checked the bag for the stitching to be correctly and everything put on it, all that stuff. They're going to have different, QR or not QR, but like SKUs and stuff for that. So I feel like they'll be able to figure out really quick what was bought at Gucci and who bought it. Especially if I worked at Gucci, I think I would remember if one of those Murdaugh guys came in. Maggie, maybe not so much because she's a woman, but I feel like when men come into stores, and normally women, they work at designer, stores. So do men, but a lot of time it is a woman that you see. And I feel like with me, like me being a woman, when I would deal with like men or gentlemen, it always felt like I always remembered them. I mean, I always remember my women too, but compared to women, I feel like I knew the men a little more because they came in few and far between. Oh, I didn't see. Oh, I wasn't listening. I didn't see that. Oh, you're talking about Summer. Okay. I said, you were talking to me? But yeah, I'm really interested in the case. I mean, he has over 74 charges, equaling up to 731 years of prison time. So either way, I don't think he's going to, I don't think he's going to get out anytime soon. Charleston, yeah, they said that, I can't remember, maybe it was Charleston. They did say where it was purchased though. So I am going to jump off of here because I do have to go to the dentist in an hour. I have like some sore on my mouth. I can feel it from my teeth, but man, I hate having to go to the dentist. Everybody that hates the dentist, because I hate the dentist. But I am going to jump off of here. Thank you for talking about my background. I appreciate that. I saw that someone said I had the best background. I love my little sign. It's like the cutest ever. But I do appreciate each and every one of you guys for spending a little bit of your day with me. We are going to do our next giveaway at 10,000 Titans. We're almost to 6,000 now. Don't forget to follow me over on Twitter, TikTok, at Titanium_built. I am going to be I'm usually on Twitter, at least tweeting some things out a few times a day. So I will see you guys all in the next live. You have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.